You're listening to Short History Shorts Audio, where history speaks louder than images. The year is 260 BC, and the Roman Republic is facing one of its greatest challenges to date. Locked in a deadly struggle with Carthage in what would become known as the First Punic War, Rome had stepped far beyond its traditional domain of land warfare. It had begun building a navy, not just a defensive coastal fleet, but an ocean-going force capable of contesting Carthage's maritime supremacy. At the heart of this effort was the looming confrontation off the northern coast of Sicily near the port of Mylae, a moment that would mark Rome's very first major naval victory and change the course of the war. But this was not just a clash of fleets, it was a test of innovation, determination, and tactical transformation. Until this point, Carthage had ruled the seas. Their warships, particularly the powerful quinquiremes, dominated the central and western Mediterranean. Carthaginian sailors were experienced, well-trained, and commanded by admirals who came from a long tradition of naval excellence. Rome, on the other hand, had barely any naval tradition at all. In fact, prior to 264 BC, Rome possessed no significant fleet and no tradition of maritime combat. When the war with Carthage erupted over the control of Sicily, Rome quickly realized that fighting an island war against a maritime empire required ships, and lots of them. According to legend, Rome captured a stranded Carthaginian quinquireme and used it as the prototype to mass-produce a fleet of over 100 ships. But Rome's real innovation was not just copying ship designs, it was finding a way to neutralize the Carthaginian naval advantage. The solution was brutal and effective: the corvus. The corvus, Latin for raven, was a boarding device, a kind of assault bridge with a heavy spike at the end, designed to swing down and pin itself into the deck of an enemy ship. With this innovation, Roman sailors didn't need to match Carthaginian seamanship, they just needed to close the gap and allow their superior infantry to fight ship to ship as if on land. In essence, the Romans transformed naval warfare into infantry combat on floating platforms. Enter the consul Gaius Duilius, the man chosen to lead Rome's first major naval operation. Duilius was not a sailor by training, he was a traditional Roman magistrate and military commander, but he was aggressive, pragmatic, and willing to try bold strategies. In 260 BC, Carthaginian commander Hannibal Gisco moved with confidence, bringing a fleet to challenge the Romans off the coast near Mylae. He expected to face a disorganized and inexperienced enemy. But what followed was a stunning reversal. As the Carthaginian fleet approached, they encountered the unfamiliar sight of large Roman ships bristling with strange mechanical bridges. Duilius ordered his fleet to close quickly, and as the Carthaginians attempted to use their superior maneuverability to outflank the Romans, the corvus mechanisms swung into action. Roman ships latched onto their enemies, and heavily armed marines poured across the boarding bridges. The battle became a series of brutal melee fights, rather than a contest of ramming or sailing skill. Duilius personally led the assault, and ship after ship was taken by force. By the end of the engagement, the Carthaginians had lost around 50 ships, and the rest retreated in disarray. Rome had won its first naval battle in history, and it had done so not by playing to traditional naval strengths, but by redefining the battlefield. Gaius Duilius became an instant national hero. Upon returning to Rome, he was honored with a triumph, and a victory column was erected in the Forum, the Columna Rostrata, decorated with the rams of captured Carthaginian ships. Even more remarkably, it was said that a torchbearer and a flute player were assigned to accompany Duilius whenever he walked at night in Rome. Such was the gratitude of the state. But the Battle of Mylae was far more than a symbolic victory. It proved to both Rome and Carthage that the Romans were not confined to land warfare. It showed that the Republic was capable of adapting, innovating, and pushing beyond its limitations. It also forced Carthage to reconsider the balance of power at sea. Though Rome would go on to suffer catastrophic naval losses in storms and future battles, the psychological breakthrough at Mylae gave Rome the confidence to continue naval development. The implications of this victory extended well beyond 260 BC. The corvus became a mainstay of Roman naval tactics, though it had its drawbacks. making ships top-heavy and prone to capsizing in rough seas. Even so, for a generation, it allowed Rome to meet and defeat more experienced navies. The battle also signaled to Carthage that Rome's resolve and capacity to learn were not to be underestimated. The victory at Mylae marked the beginning of Rome's transformation from a regional power into a Mediterranean empire. Though it would take decades and the lives of hundreds of thousands to truly subdue Carthage, the seeds of Rome's eventual supremacy were sown in battles like this, moments when inexperience met innovation and when raw determination carried the day. Gaius Duilius, often overlooked in the grand sweep of Roman history, deserves recognition as one of the key architects of that first step. By taking command of an untested fleet and securing a shocking victory, he helped lay the foundation of Roman naval power, which would one day dominate from Spain to Syria. The Battle of Mylae stands as a testament to the power of adaptation in warfare. Rome had taken to the seas not as masters but as students, and by turning the very nature of naval combat on its head, they had won not just a battle, but a place at the table of global powers. The First Punic War was far from over, but at Mylae, Rome had proven that Carthage was not invincible. The Republic had learned to fight on the water, and it would never look back.